scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
It's not our Christmas episode.
I don't even, have we done a Christmas episode?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did last year, did we?
Yeah.
I mean, Christmas is just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a capitalist.
Yeah.
Fucking whatever the fuck.
It's such a like weird amalgamation of like everything though, because it's like pagan and it's like Jesus, like it's Christian, it's pagan, it's capitalist,
Macy's.
It's also like good though, because it's like, oh, you know, like you're giving things to other people, and like I think that part's nice, and like spending time with the people you love, like that's nice. But yeah, it's Coca-Cola.
The polar bears. Yeah. I personally fucking love Christmas. I go like ham for Christmas just because the wintertime makes me so ungodly depressed that like I'm like sparkly lights and like time with my family and my chosen family, and you know, food and not working for a couple of days and giving people presents.
True.
And it just makes me feel a little less bleak for like a week or so. And then I try to like do Christmassy shit like leading up to it to make myself not so depressed about that it is dark around like 3:00.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, we've never done a Christmas episode. So.
Yeah, maybe we should. I don't know.
It'd be kind of fun. I could figure out something to talk about.
Because, yeah, I feel like, because we have, like, our kind of theme of, like, oh, like, for Thanksgiving, we'll do, like, episodes revolving around, like, indigenous folk. And then, like, I feel like we're, I don't know how, like, on brand, like, on, like, seasonal brand we've been, really.
Yeah.
But I feel like we could theoretically
incorporate something.
Get there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will warn y'all now, we also... I know at this point, everyone's just like, whatever, episodes come out when they come out. And that's true. Because everyone's life is crazy right now.
It's, you know.
But also we will not be here the following Monday because it's the day after Christmas and I'm going to be probably hungover and wanting to sleep and laying on my parents' couch in a state of comatose. So
I will probably be laying on that same couch.
Yeah.
So
me and Taylor, isn't that cute, you guys?
Yeah.
We had Thanksgiving together. We're going to have Christmas together.
Yeah, I don't have a family, so I don't know.
So we adopted him.
Not entirely true, but mostly true. It's true in the sense that my family does not live anywhere near me.
This is true. This is true. Anyway, so yeah, we're not talking about anything that has to do with Christmas today. We're instead talking about some shit that will probably make your seasonal depression worse.
Oh yeah, for
it
sure.
will add some like real existential dread to the seasonal depression. So we're talking about just like large financial, I don't know, scams or mishaps that happened in.
It's like when capitalism be capitalisming.
Yes.
And
hard.
It fucks people over.
So,
yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is remarks.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God.
Oh, it's fine.
The podcast. That is a podcast.
Karl Marx, heart-shaped glasses.
Yeah, you know it. You know it by now. And if you don't,
you love it.
Hopefully you found that intro entertaining and you stuck around to listen to the rest of what we have to say now.
True. It does eventually get educational.
Yes.
But hopefully.
But we have to be like witty. Yeah. And like cute at the beginning.
I mean, it's just, you know, you gotta have like, you gotta like buffer yourself into it. You know, you can't just start immediately and be like,
bad stuff.
And 30 million people died. Like,
exactly.
My name is Taylor.
I'm Phoebe. So I'll take it away.
Please.
So who the fuck is Bernie Madoff?
I don't know. I've never heard that name before. I think probably a stand-up guy.
Oh, well, you have a road of disappointment ahead of you.
Oh, I usually
you
do.
have actually heard of him, though. Yeah, you know the story. Okay. I had, like, heard about him, and I kind of knew, like, a little bit, but it was fun to, like, get all the ins and outs of, like, what really happened.
I mean, I feel like I don't really know the ins and outs necessarily.
Sure.
I mean, I know it's like a Ponzi scheme basically, but yeah.
So I'm sure some of you have heard his name before. I knew that he had something to do with money, scams, whatever. So let me tell you the story of Bernie Madoff and how he scammed people out of about $64 billion. So Bernie started out in the financial scene in 1960, founding Bernard L. Madoff Securities, LLC, which was a penny stock trading company. And penny stocks are shares of smaller companies that sell for under $1. Mm-hmm. Taylor, can you enlighten us at all anymore on that? Is that a pretty good description? Or
that's pretty much what it is. Basically, so like a penny stock, it is like a low stock, and penny stocks are not going to be like traded very often. Mm-hmm. So you're not gonna like see like, you know, in like the movies when you see like the New York Stock Exchange,
right?
Like, people are like waving shit around. Yeah. Like that's not for penny stocks. Those are for like huge companies. Penny stocks are like like a dude in an office somewhere, and he gets like 2 calls a week maybe, and he's like, I want to trade this stock, and he's like, okay, and he fills out a form. That's like what it is.
They're just like, they're not very like coveted.
Exactly,
I would say. And so he founded the company with around $5,000 that he had earned from lifeguarding at his local swimming pool and fixing the sprinkler systems of his neighbors. Wikipedia states that at this time, $5,000 would be worth about $46,000, which I was like, that's insane. That cannot be accurate. Wow. But it definitely is.
$5,000 is equivalent to
$46,000.
From inflation? Jesus.
Yeah, so in the 1960s, $5,000 would be around $46,000 today.
Damn, so you really could just go and start a company.
Oh, you could just go crazy. Yeah.
That's
which
insane.
I'm just like, God damn it. Like, God damn it. $46,000 doesn't even buy you like a house. $46,000, I don't even know what that gets you these days. I guess a nice car, like a really nice car.
Yeah, it could get you like a pretty good car, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, definitely not a house, and really not even like enough to live off of for what? Like that's like some people's like yearly income.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Know.
Anyway, so that just blew my mind because I was like, that God, inflation really hurts my soul. Mm-hmm. The other funding for his trading company was a loan of a mere $50,000 coming from his father-in-law. So, you know, there it is.
Oh, it's always there.
Yep. His father-in-law also helped Bernie get his first investors by referring his high echelon friends to his company to invest, who then gave him tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, including $100,000 from Carl Shapiro, who's an owner of like this big women's retail brand. No relation to Ben Shapiro, unfortunately. I thought that would be really funny.
That would be really funny, but yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah. And $100,000 in the 60s would be close to about $1 billion in today's money. So that's a fuckload of fucking money.
Mm-hmm. I mean, $1 billion.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That like this dude just had and was like, sure, here you go.
Why not? Let me just
go invest it and trade it and shit. Which like, I never would. I barely know what trading means. But like, I mean, I do.
I mean, it's dumb, but
it is dumb. So obviously Bernie had no real struggle from the beginning. He had grown up in a relatively wealthy family. He married into wealth and he socialized himself into wealth. And so in 1970, Bernie's brother, Peter Madoff, joined the firm and helped to develop technology that would solidify the Madoff name in the eyes of Wall Street. Peter helped to create technology that would automatically do trading for Madoff rather than having to join the New York Stock Exchange and make trades on the exchange floor. Like Taylor was saying, you know, like that scene in movies and they're like all yelling and like throwing pieces of paper and whatever.
On the like answering 3 phones at once.
Exactly. And that's how it used to work, is that it would be literally you would be in this building and like answering physical phone calls, talking to physical people, trading like almost physical stocks. Again, it was like around the this was the 70s. So
and they used to actually have like up until this point around this time, like they used to actually have like physical like certificates.
Yeah.
For like stock, like, oh, you own like it's a like thing you can have. It's like, oh, you own this portion, like one share in fucking whatever, Walt Disney or whatever.
Sure.
So, yeah, now it's all fucking electronic, of course. But
and so this is what started that was That's Peter crazy. Madoff creating this, or him and, several other people getting together to create this technology which sends out like quotes for trading automatically or like, with the click of a button, basically. I don't really know how to describe it better than that. And so this gave the Madoff company the ability to compete with these larger trading companies who are like fighting for their lives on the stock exchange floor. This allowed his kind of penny stock situation to like receive things quicker and hook people quicker kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And so this worked so well that this technology was eventually used to create the NASDAQ, which is the National Association of Securities Dealers Automated Quotation Stock Market, which is like the largest stock trading system used and trusted to this day. I mean, I think everybody knows NASDAQ. Yeah. It's an automatic fucking thing on your like iPhone if you have one.
Yeah, it's again, it's the same as like the New York Stock Exchange, except it's like an online marketplace is what they call it, like listed stock exchange versus like an actual physical place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Bernie even served as the chairman for the NASDAQ for some time.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's very crazy, especially when we get to everything later. The Madoff empire eventually worked their way into all the largest trading groups in the country and even some outside. So as I said earlier, Bernie served as the chairman of the NASDAQ. Him, as well as several other members of the family and the company, served on the NASD, which is the National Association of Securities Dealers, which regulated brokerage firms and operations of the New York Stock Exchange. Several of them served on the board of SIFMA, which is Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association, and they would represent banks, asset management, and trade management, as well as DTCC, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, which is yet another company that has shit to do with stocks that I will likely never fully understand. Yeah. But basically this acronym company has to do with the finalizing of stock exchanges.
Acronym company.
Yeah.
Also, how old is Bernie Madoff still alive?
He died last year, actually. Yeah.
I was wanting to get him and Bernie Sanders into like a ring, like a cage match.
Yes, get the Bernies to fight.
To fight it out, right? Like
I feel like Bernie Madoff is a bitch.
Oh yeah.
And Bernie Sanders is like, getting down with the working class.
Yeah, he's based.
And so he has like street smarts more. Yeah. And so I feel like he would know how to like
also,
avoid the punches.
Bernie Sanders like got shot with like fire hoses back in the fucking civil rights movement. I feel like he's way scrappier than Bernie Madoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
My money is just on Sanders. That's all I'm saying.
My money's always on Sanders.
True.
Oh, Sanders.
Unless
it's an election, then it's not.
Unless.
Sorry, buddy.
He had the soul,
He really did.
He was trying his best.
Soul. I hope he's just like relaxing.
Yeah, I know, me too.
These days.
He's like fucking 80 years old. Like,
yeah, the man is
older. Like, he's old as shit.
Yeah, yeah. So the Madoffs were everywhere in the stock world. They were sticking their dicks into every single stock and trading hole that they could possibly find. Fuck. Stocks. And this, along with the supposed incredible returns Bernie was making for his clients, was what earned his fabulous reputation among traders. The larger market traders on Wall Street hated him because he was starting to eat up the trading market away from these larger companies, because people were seeing, I can just invest, like, it was still a lot of money. They're like, I can invest, thousands of dollars, except this, I'm buying a shit ton of stocks because the stocks that we're trading are these lower price stocks, basically. Rather than like these huge companies that it's hard to get in the trading like circuit for, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You can buy like a bunch of stocks and like increase your profits that way versus like
if you have like a big company, you can buy less stocks and then you just hope that they have like a really good year.
Exactly.
Whereas like if you buy a fuck ton of these tiny stocks and like even if they, you know, if you buy fucking, let's just say like 10,000, you know, shares of like a $1 thing and it goes up 10 cents, like you just made whatever 10 cents times 10,000 is.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Taylor with the financial knowledge. Thank you, sir.
you.
I knew you would be useful during this episode because I get it mostly, but you've got more information.
I kind of know the logistics. I worked at a bank for a long time.
Yeah. And so in a 1992 article in the Wall Street Journal, Randall Smith profiles Madoff and sums up well why larger traders wanted him out. Quote, one of the masters of the... he was saying Madoff was one of the masters of the off-exchange third market, quote unquote, and the bane of the New York Stock Exchange. He has built a highly profitable securities firm, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, which siphons a huge volume of stock trades away from the big board. The $470 million average daily volume of trades executed electronically by the Madoff firm off the exchange equals 9% of the New York exchanges. Mr. Madoff's firm can execute trades so quickly and cheaply that it actually pays other brokerage firms a penny a share to execute their customers' orders, profiting from the spread between bid and asked prices that most stocks trade for.
Yeah.
So, kind of like we were just saying.
Yeah, and I guess, and sorry, I don't want to steal any
thunder
here,
do.
But so like the third market, like what it's talking about there, that's when you take like some of those bigger companies that would normally be traded on like an exchange, like the New York Stock Exchange, and like there's nothing inherently like magical about like the New York Stock Exchange other than it's just like the place where it used to happen. Sure. But like you can trade those, even those big company stocks anywhere. So like what he was doing was taking even those big company stocks from the exchange and then trading them like with his little private system, and it was just faster and more efficient to do it that way. So it probably made a fuck ton of money doing it.
Right,
you know?
Right. Especially with the support of this like electronic system that he had, which even these like larger companies didn't have. Because again, exactly. It's the 70s.
Brand new, yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that he was the one that fucking started that
basically
shit.
Created the NASDAQ.
Wild.
Crazy. You know who else created the NASDAQ?
I'm going to guess Tonks.
Stonks.
See, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Tonks, stonks.
Stonks.
Coincidence? Can you hear Tonks drinking?
I'm so sorry if you can.
She's thirsty.
She's a thirsty girl. My dad has like he just can't stand the sound of dogs drinking, which like I get it. So sorry if you also had that issue, listener.
Yeah, maybe skip this part. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh man.
We're back. Looney Tunes, back in action. And I'm here to tell you that, if you're 14 years old and you hurt yourself skateboarding, don't tell your parents, because then they'll make you wear a helmet. And that's fucking
Helmets
lame.
Are not cool.
Yeah, that's not cool. Your friends will laugh at you. You have to show up to school with a helmet.
Yeah.
Carry it around on your backpack all day.
Oh my god.
That's
and everyone's gonna go, helmet boy.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can.
Also,
attest.
if you're 14 and you're listening to this podcast, what up? What like brought you here?
Yeah. Why are you here? Yeah.
And I'm very curious to know like what aligned in your life to bring you to listen to this podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
glad you're getting real education instead of the bullshit they teach you at school.
True.
Although, please stay in school. High school, at least. Get your GED and then fuck off. Do whatever you want.
True, yeah.
Like no algebra and shit, you know. But don't pay attention in history class. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's all stupid. Pay enough attention to like not flunk out. But then, read some other books.
Yeah, listen to remarks. Learn the truth of.
I mean, I don't know, because like I guess 14 maybe is a little bit young to try to be like into like, you know, Karl Marx and stuff. But, 'cause I didn't start like being into it until I was like I don't know, like 16 or 17.
Yeah, I was like a senior in high school.
Yeah, when I like started being like, and that was like when I was like politically aware, and then I like started reading Karl Marx more just for like I I wonder what this crazy cat's all about.
Yeah.
You know?
I was like, hold on a minute.
And wait.
I think I told
1 second.
we like told our radicalization stories, and I was saying in like my senior year of high school in my something history something class, we talked about communism, and I was like, this sounds good.
This sounds based.
Why
actually,
are we all pretending this is bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has their needs met and also can survive.
Sounds sick.
Sounds actually kind of cool.
Sounds like a good thing.
And they're like, it's really bad because then everything has to be the same and all that. And it's like, well, if that means that everybody can like not starve, then I'm chill with that.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm okay with
That'd
it being the same.
That'd be fine.
I mean, it's not. I know that now.
And that's
but
also
like,
not how.
yeah.
But
when I was a kid, I was like, it could be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
Wouldn't mind.
People weren't starving. I don't know.
I only need one brand of toothpaste. I don't really give a shit to have more than one.
Anyway, that's a conversation for another day.
This is true.
But
I would hope that the one toothpaste brand would be Tom's, though, because that is my fave.
True. Tom's has good
good shit.
True. I like Tom's. I use Tom's deodorant pretty regularly.
Nice.
It's nice. Yeah.
I don't, but it's because I am like really, 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 really sweaty. You guys, it's bad. I need like genuine, like intense antiperspirant.
Industrial grade deodorant.
I genuinely do. It's embarrassing.
I don't think there's anything embarrassing about being a little sweaty.
I'm a sweaty girl. What can I say?
Yeah, it happens to everybody. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. So let's talk about the scam behind Bernie Madoff's riches. What was the scam? How did Madoff eventually end up getting sentenced to 150 years in prison?
Damn. Yeah.
And it's also really funny because he was like 75, I think, when he got arrested. Something like that.
That's crazy.
And it's like, okay, 100, he's not going to live.
Yeah.
Those sentences are so funny to me. I mean, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to me. Anyway, so Madoff started in the trading world by receiving investments from his rich family and his close rich friends, claiming that he would get them incredible returns from the stock exchange. And so then climbing up the ladder to the top of the investment world and getting himself on the board of several exchange companies, he solidified his reputation and created trust among his investors. And this also earned him many new investors who were excited by the prospect of big, quick returns. Madoff then used this money from new investors to pay off the old investors, and the cycle continued like this. It's a classic Ponzi scheme, and it would have been easily detected if Madoff wasn't so highly respected in the industry. Right? Does that make sense? So he got money from people.
Yeah.
Got money from different new people, used their new money to pay off the old people.
Exactly.
So it's nothing was ever really being traded or invested. It was just...
And then, of course, he took a bunch of the money for himself.
Exactly. Yeah, he would pocket the rest, which was a lot, right?
A fuck ton.
Because, like we were saying, it was these penny stocks, and so it's like... Oh, you know, they would invest a certain amount of money and they would give him like, I don't know, $100,000. But then he would claim, oh, your investment only got X return because it was penny stocks. Let me put the rest in my little pocket here. It like literally is like the definition of it. Like it's like exactly what like Mr. Ponzi did.
The Ponzi.
The Ponzi himself. Another way that he kept it going for so long was literally just lies. Madoff falsified return reports showing his investors the alleged mountains of money their investments had made and encouraged them to keep their money in the market, keep trading, and take home an even bigger profit. So essentially just gambling, right? Which kind of is what the stock market is in a bit of a sense. Except there is no real money at all because it's all a lie, and Bernie had already used their money to pay off other investors. But, you know, he would be like, well, look, you know, you invested in this, this, and this, and it's doing really well. Let's keep it in those investments, or let's invest it in something else so that you can make more money off of this. But it was fake. He was lying.
Yeah.
And that money was probably already gone. But that's how he kept getting either more money or they weren't asking to, like, withdraw, right?
Yeah, and that's I assume that if they did ask to withdraw, that's when he would take like some of the new investors' money and pay them. And I guess his goal was to just keep that up for, I guess, however long.
Yeah, yeah. Which like he did have some like actual money coming in. The business had started out legit. Back when he and his brother had created the technology for NASDAQ, and he was still trading penny stocks, there was legit money going back to investors and legit money like being invested. And throughout the whole thing, like he was doing that periodically, but just like only like a bit to kind of keep up the, you know, whatever, the charade, if you will.
Yeah.
But, you know, it didn't take long for greed to take over and the extraordinarily simple method to his fraud to develop, because he realized, oh shit, I can just lie. Yeah. I have this money here to give to other people that will make them then give me more money. And then also I can pocket this money and like buy a yacht. Sick.
Well, yeah, and like, and especially because at that at that time, because like the trading technology and everything was so like new. Like, there wasn't really anybody, like, monitoring
exactly
what was going on with it. Because they were, like, again, like, he developed the NASDAQ. Like, no one fucking knew, like, what the fuck was going on with it. Like, especially not, like, lawmakers or, like, the SEC. Like, there's no way that they were, like, they were still fucking worrying about, like, all the dudes waving paper on the fucking New York Stock Exchange. Like,
exactly.
There's nobody to, like, check what he was doing.
Yeah. And so it's like almost a little comical because, as I was saying, he follows like the exact formula of Mr. Ponzi himself, like almost to the motherfucking T. And it's just like, it's just so obvious, but so few people, like you said, were paying attention. And he was this like well-regarded guy and nothing had really happened yet. And so he just kept kind of flying under the radar. The Madoffs also secured their name and reputation by making large donations to charities who would then in turn invest with Madoff. And perhaps more sinister, Madoff used his Jewish ancestry to make friends with Jewish nonprofits and then subsequently lose their money.
Cool. Yeah,
really bad.
Good stuff.
Possibly the worst, or at least like the one I was like, goo, was the Elie Wiesel Foundation for Humanity, or is it Ely?
I'm not sure.
I think it's Elie Wiesel. Foundation for Humanity. This is a foundation that provides funding to support oppressed groups and creates college funds for young activists. They help out, like, to this day, it's still around. They help out, like, young Jewish children in other countries, like extremely low income countries. They do like college funds. You can like submit an essay to explain a way that you were like helpful in an activism kind of way, and they'll pay for your college. It's like, it's pretty great. And this foundation lost $15.2 billion. And Wiesel himself, who was an activist, he was a Holocaust survivor and an Auschwitz survivor. He wrote books and everything. He's like very well known for fucking surviving the Holocaust as a Jewish man. And his wife, Marion, they both lost their life savings.
Jesus Christ.
So you have to be kind of like a huge fucking asshole piece of shit to steal money from Elie Wiesel himself and his foundation that's like helping other oppressed groups. Like, it's just like, fuck you. Like you're evil.
That's a real evil move right there.
And like using his like ancestry to be like, hey, you know.
Yeah, no, I get you. Like, no, it's very bad.
It's so skeevy. And so the Madoff scheme first came under scrutiny by Harry Markopoulos, a financial analyst who was suspicious of the success of Madoff. And he tried to calculate the numbers Madoff was reporting, and he said it took him only 4 minutes to conclude that the numbers were being fudged.
Yeah.
So that is how long, if anyone had wanted to look into it, that's how long it took him to like suss that out.
Yeah.
Harry went to the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is like the people who are kind of watching over this shit, to report his findings, but no one would hear it. He did it this like multiple times to multiple different SEC offices, and all of them were like, I don't know.
Well, also though, because like we talked to Bernie, and he said
He
that
said it's fine.
he said that he was actually really good. So what do you have to say about that? Because I feel like we believe him.
Yeah. I feel like he's a nice guy.
It's a cool guy, really.
He donated all that money to charity.
I know.
Which
like,
he then basically
how dare you?
lost the exact same amount.
Yeah, no, it's good.
And the SEC would go on to call this their like biggest mistake of all time, which it was, because this guy sucks. So it wasn't until the 2008 financial crisis that Madoff's scam was sniffed out. Many investors who were now struggling financially because of what Taylor will tell us about, wanted to withdraw their supposedly large sums from the trading market to like fucking live off of, because everything was crazy at this time. And so Madoff paid off as many investors as he could, but with no new funds coming in from investors, Madoff's rivers began to run dry and the scam began to become revealed. And so, exhausting all avenues to try to pay back investors and cover his ass, Bernie eventually confessed his scam to his sons, who were the ones who allegedly had reported him to the FBI, which I'm like, damn, bro.
Wild.
Yeah, down bad. In the end, Bernie had scammed about $64.8 billion over the about 20 years that the scam persisted, and owed over $18 billion to investors. The victims of the Madoff Ponzi scheme ranged from rich financiers to poor working class folks trying to make a big break. And many lost their pension funds, retirement funds, and life savings. An investor told the judge at Madoff's trial, quote, "He stole from the rich, he stole from the poor, he stole from the in-between. He had no values, he cheated his victims out of their money so he and his wife could live a life of luxury beyond belief." Bernie and his wife enjoyed private jets, a yacht, and 3 homes, including one in the south of France.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
Fuck this guy. And again, it's like, I honestly, I feel like the story would have been a lot different if you just stole from rich people, because that's kind of based. But
yeah,
he stole from everybody, and
Yep.
also was just a piece of shit. So.
Yeah, just a general piece of shit.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff was convicted and sentenced to 150 years in prison, with the judge calling his crimes, quote, extraordinarily evil, which
Jesus Christ.
is facts.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty evil. Yeah.
Yeah. Madoff served 11 years in prison before dying at 82 due to kidney failure in April of 2021.
Damn.
Good
riddance.
riddance.
True. See, and I always think it's funny with like stories like this because I think of like this, and then like Jordan, is it Belford, the Wolf of Wall Street guy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because like they just like did things that like they figured out they could do.
Yes.
And then literally like they eventually get caught, and then like the SEC and like all these other like regulatory bodies are like, well, fuck, I guess we gotta like not let that happen again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just
And then it does.
And then it does. And it's just so funny because it's like, if you all have to have like books upon books of like regulations to like be like, well, this is like to make sure that the system works right. It's like, maybe the system is just bad.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Well, and this whole situation is eerily similar to the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX scandal, which is what inspired this episode, because we were seeing that all fucking unfold. And it's just like, I mean, that was basically just the formula of a Ponzi scheme.
Just with crypto instead of fucking stock.
Exactly.
Like,
it's just like modern, like, 20th century or what fucking century are we in? 20th?
We're in the 21st.
21st century, like Ponzi scheme, Anyway, so it's bleak. The shit's still very much happening.
Pretty crazy, actually. But yeah, so that was interesting. I didn't know a lot about. Again, my whole like Bernie Madoff knowledge was like scam people with a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the financial industry, so I didn't know all of that.
Yeah.
That shit. So pretty bad guy.
Bad man.
But we're going to talk about other things that are bad, which is kind of just all of capitalism in this case.
Yeah.
But there are a few, like, again, this one's harder because there's not really like a person that's like to blame for the Great Recession. but it's just kind of, I guess there's like, some shitty things that companies did, just be it companies be companying, as they say.
There was like multiple moving parts that came together to make like life a complete shit show at that time.
It was wild. And we're going to talk about it because, if you're anything like me, you probably remember, like, I'm sure you know that like there was the Great Recession in 2008, but like you probably don't know like what exactly caused it, like what the fuck happened. Like why did this whole thing happen, because
I was like, I think I was in the 7th grade.
I think I was in like the 5th or 6th grade, so that would make sense.
So I was what, 13?
Is
that how old you are in 7th grade?
That makes sense. Like 12 or 13.
Okay. So I was like, I know bad things are happening, but I don't really understand why my parents are so stressed out.
I do not get it.
I am a child.
I am a child, and this is crazy. But or maybe some of you in the audience were affected by the crash in a more significant way. So whatever the case, let's talk about it. So, before we can jump into our story, we actually have to discuss some boring finance industry stuff first. So, please stick with me here. There's a couple of different companies that were and are in the business of selling what are called mortgage securities. Our first company is called the Federal National Mortgage Association, also known as Fannie Mae. That's what they call it in the biz.
I hate that.
They call it Fannie Mae.
I really hate that.
In addition to Fannie Mae, there's another one that goes by Freddie Mac, and there's also Ginnie Mae. Ginnie Mae doesn't really play a role in this story, and then I think there's like a Susie Mae as well or something.
Interesting.
The Susie Mae one is for student loans, so it's different, but. So they call these the cute little quirky names.
Yeah,
for
I
these,
despise that.
for these companies. I mean, that's just like, you'll like hear like big fucking business exec guys being like, you seen the Fannie Mae today? Like, it's crazy.
I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah. In the 90s, the economy was actually doing pretty good. The fictional...
Obviously, of $5,000. Oh, I guess that was the 70s, but still.
Yeah, so this is the 90s, a little bit more fucking inflation at that time, but still pretty good. I feel like most people like semi like remember like, the 90s leading into like the early 2000s. Obviously, like it was a pretty good time because like it was right before all this shit happened. So the fictional American dream was alive and well in the minds of the corporate overlords, not Circle Pit Radio, the actual corporate overlords. Fannie Mae, so this like organization, was on a mission to get every person who wanted a home. This is not out of the kindness of her heart, though. It feels weird calling it a her, but...
It's named Fannie Mae, so I just imagine like a little like Southern Belle or something.
Southern Belle. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are private companies, and basically what they do is they purchase mortgages from banks. So like you, as a person, like you'll go get a mortgage with bank, start paying your mortgage, whatever. Use it to buy a house. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will buy these mortgages from the banks.
Yes.
And then bundle these like mortgages together and make these little bundles of mortgages and sell those to investors. So they'll sell them to like, usually it's fucking like big ass investment companies that buy these things. And then what?
If I can interject as a person with a mortgage. Well, that will start next month, but that was something that I was talking to the lenders about, is that like your mortgage is going to frequently be paid to a different company.
Exactly.
Which sounds fucking insane to me, and it's like, I kind of was like, okay, like as long as I know where to go and as long as like that money goes towards me paying off this mortgage, great. But yeah, like even to this day, these mortgages are constantly being bought and sold by different investors and companies and things.
Yep. And so then there's like these bundles of mortgages that these ones buy. So yeah, and thank you for the insight.
That's just my knowledge that I have now because I have to.
I have to know it. But yeah, so the investors, they buy these, or they, invest in these bundles, and they get paid the mortgage payments from the people who are paying off the mortgages.
Yes.
And there's a commission charge that goes to the brokerage firms, which would be Fannie and Freddie Mac.
Totally. Yeah.
Situation.
It's all super fucking weird how it works. And like, this is kind of how a lot of things in the financial industry are, or like the loan industry in general. And it's just like, I don't know. It's fucking weird and very confusing. And it's like someone else is always owning your shit, but like you don't really know who. And
they make it confusing for like no reason, really. Like it. Well, no, it's confusing for a reason. It's so that normal people can't fucking do it.
Absolutely,
like, that's why they do it. Yeah. But you know what else is also confusing for a reason?
The fact that there's going to be a blank space right here and not actually an ad.
Yes, you're so right. Yes. This break we're going to take.
Yes.
Maybe someday, far in the future.
Yeah.
When somebody's going back and listening through the whole Remarks catalog, we'll have another advertiser who will fill this vacant
this beautiful
hole in our heart.
And give us a fraction of a cent. That we could buy penny stocks with.
We could buy.
As we've discussed, stocks are always a great idea.
Yeah, no, it's good to have stocks, actually. Yeah, no, it's capitalism. It works like a charm.
Anyway.
Thing that will go this blank space.
Bye.
Alrighty. It's me.
It's me. It's Morbin time.
It's Morbin time. True. It's Gorbin time.
Gorbin time.
That's what Gorbachev said when he died.
And then he just passed away, and his soul left his body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Freddie
Mac, Fannie Mae.
Yes.
Our dream team here.
And Bernie Mac.
Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, investors buy these bundles of mortgages, get paid through the people who are paying their fucking shit. That's how it works there. And then of course the money that, like the commission money that Freddie and Fannie make, they go and buy more mortgages.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah. As you imagine, the more mortgages you sell and you buy and then sell to investors, the more profit your company will make, which can never go wrong.
Ever. No.
Ever. Though the organizations are backed by the implicit trust of the government, which we'll see in a moment, they are not fully backed by the government. It's kind of assumed and implied that the government will bail these companies out because they are like government. Again, they have that like the implicit backing of them, but they are also private companies. They're not public, or they're not like, they're like a corporation basically. So though there's some investment risk in doing any kind of investment, as you were saying, it's gambling kind of all around.
Sure.
A lot of people assume that these were like top tier safe investments because of that implicit like government backing, because they were so strongly tied to the government. And typically in like the securities industry, when something's like through the government, it's pretty safe on like, it's like a safe investment, as they call it, because like, unless we overthrow the government soon, more often than not, like the government will pay you back, and it's not going to like tumble kind of thing. Yeah. So we have a lot of mortgages being sold to people who either don't have the best credit or are just like in normal circumstances wouldn't be able to afford these loans, but we're getting deals and offers that were above their normal price point by the companies looking to make money by again buying and selling more investments. When the economy is doing well, you have a bunch of houses being sold, you get more companies and cities wanting to build more houses to make their own money,
right?
Which then causes the housing prices to shoot up.
Yes.
As the prices of houses rise and more mortgages are being sold to, again, people who may not have been in the financial place to afford them otherwise, then, it's kind of like a cycle at that point. Like it feeds into them. More people are buying houses, making the house prices go up even more, which is making them build more houses, making more people buy houses, kind of thing.
Sounds very familiar to what was happening like a year ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very similar.
It's so similar. Eerily similar, if you will.
Eerily. This fed into itself more and more, and so on and so forth, to the point that it created what everybody, the little buzzword everybody calls a bubble.
Yes.
Because, again, it was like this cycle that was feeding itself. People were affording the houses because the deals were good, and the deals were good because people continued to buy houses. As per usual with investments, the higher the risk, the higher the reward, and the reward continued to climb and climb.
Arrested Development, if you've seen that show, there was like a season that was like basically all about this. Mm-hmm. And it was very, very funny.
Yeah.
The thing where it's Portia and is it Tobias that she's married to?
Yes.
And they're like going through this like way insane expensive house that has like double staircases, and the realtor is like, "'Cause then you'll have it."
then you'll own it.
Have it.
Yeah,
like everything. He's like, you may not need 2 staircases, but then you have them.
You have them.
And so then you have it. Anyway, funny.
Exactly the thought process.
Yes.
So now normally when an individual cannot afford to pay for a mortgage, they would default on that mortgage, which happens here and there, but isn't usually like an economically shattering occurrence. It was assumed that the equity of the house would cover the cost of the investments for the investors if the house was defaulted on when it was sold to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So like worst case scenario, like someone can't pay their mortgage. Oh, well, then we just like they get kicked out of the house, foreclosed on or whatever.
Right. We
then sell the house again, and then that money goes to pay the investor who had bought like, that mortgage in one of those bundles.
Totally.
However, when a bunch of people begin to default on their overly expensive houses, it causes a little shock to the system, and you can't get someone else to buy the house at the expensive ass price because they're fucking so expensive.
Yep.
And the only thing to do is to lower the price of the house.
Yep.
If you can't find someone to fucking buy it at the super high price. As the housing prices began to fall because of the larger than normal amount of defaults, because again, a lot of these people couldn't actually afford these houses, and then the prices of the investment also began to fall because again, the housing prices are going down. Mm-hmm. It makes everyone who has similar investments want to get their money out of the investment. So when people say like, oh, they were like subprime mortgages is like what caused it.
Right.
They basically mean that like, again, these people couldn't actually afford these homes. It was subprime.
Yes.
So a bunch of defaults happened. Then everybody was like, oh shit, this is bad. Mm-hmm. Start pulling their money out.
Yep.
Now, can you think of another time in American history when a bunch of people wanted to pull their money out of from investments all at once? Maybe a time when everybody was broke and suffering immensely. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If you guessed the Great Depression,
yes,
you would be correct.
There's a reason why these two things are named very similarly.
Very similarly, yeah. Fun fact: if everybody wants their money back on an investment at once, a bank, or in this case, these companies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, cannot pay everyone back at once.
Yes.
Especially if the houses that they originally made the investments on are no longer worth as much as they were when the investments were made. Because they can't just resell them and get that same amount of money.
Exactly. Right.
Probably one of the most notable companies who went bankrupt from all of this tomfoolery was Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers owned about $600 billion in assets at the time of the crash and went completely bankrupt because the investments were not panning out. They were investment companies, so like people were like, hey, give me back my fucking money, and they didn't have any money anymore. Mm-hmm. The reason why this economic catastrophe is called the Great Recession and not a depression is because of the Federal Reserve.
Ah, yes.
You know much about the Federal Reserve?
I know a bit.
One could argue that it was still a depression of sorts, I would say, but
yeah,
a lot can be said about the Federal Reserve, aka the Fed, as they call it, and how it operates, because it actually doesn't have to answer to any governmental body. It's like completely freestanding, which I know a lot of people have issues with.
Yeah,
but
it's just crazy because of how much it controls.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely wild.
Yeah. Again, house things. That controls the amount of interest that you pay on your mortgage loan.
Yeah, it actually controls the amount of interest you pay on most kind of loans.
Right.
Because most credit card companies as well base their interest rates off of the prime rate, which is what is set by the Federal Reserve. But yeah, and not to get like too dorky about it right now.
No,
but,
get dorky.
Get dorky.
So dorky.
But like one of the reasons why the Federal Reserve is an independent government, like, or is independent of the government, is that like by the time the government like decides to do anything, a lot of times it's too late for them to actually do anything effective. So the Federal Reserve, not having to answer to any kind of like governmental body, can just like jump into action, or at least the thought is they can just jump into action really quickly and like help, stabilize the economy, which again is ideally how it works. Doesn't always fucking happen like that. But yeah. So it's completely autonomous, and it did begin lowering interest rates to encourage people to take out loans and stimulate the economy. So when we are entering like a recession, the Federal Reserve will usually lower the interest rates, or that prime rate we already talked about, to try to like encourage people to take out money and spend it.
Because, excuse me, oh my goodness, I don't know, if you just to explain interest rates for a bit. Basically, it's like the longer that a loan is, and maybe you can help me here, Taylor, because maybe I'm not explaining it too well. But it's like the longer that a loan is like put out for, that's like an extra percentage that you have to pay. Does that am I saying this well? Yeah,
because you're going to pay more over like a longer period of time.
Sure, right? Yeah. Like most housing mortgages are about 30 years. And so that extra percentage is like what you're paying over that time. So basically, when the interest rates decided by the Fed are higher, you're going to be paying more money. When they're lower, you're paying less money, right?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Just wanted to.
So to like try to encourage people to take out loans, they lower it. So it's less money.
So it's less money per month is what I'm trying to say.
Less money per month, and just in general, like people are going to want to take out like a house loan when the interest rate or the prime rate's lower, like you were saying, because you will pay less money.
Exactly. Again, eerily similar to what was happening like a year ago.
Very strange.
Oh, scary. Weird.
But yeah, and then in addition to the Fed, the government actually did end up increasing its spending post 2008 to try to like stimulate the economy by giving people more like, doing infrastructure things to try to give people jobs and things like that.
Right.
Very similar to what Biden is doing right now. I think it's what did Biden call it? Like the
Build Back Better
Act or whatever. Yeah.
Stupid name.
But yeah, same idea there is like the government's like, oh, well, we can, we need to like, we don't have to, but like, let's renovate all these things so we can give people jobs so they have money to go and spend so that.
Because, of course, after the lockdown in 2020, the economy was like freaking out.
Struggling. So yes, on September 29th, 2008, after Congress initially voted against a giant bailout bill for banks, so like the news that like, oh, Congress is not going to be bailing out these banks.
Right.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is like it's a collection of 30 of like the biggest companies in the US. So like it's like a pretty good indicator of like how the entire economy is doing.
Right.
It dropped by 777.68 points, which is a huge drop. It's a bad drop. All you really need to know about the Dow Jones and that drop is that a bunch of companies and large investors lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And as is usually the case, when big companies lose money, the first thing that they cut back on is spending to their employees and workers. So you have a bunch of layoffs.
Right.
So not only do you now have a bunch of people living in houses that they can't afford, but also losing their jobs because the company they would work for lost a bunch of fucking money.
Right.
And investors are all trying to pull
because
out.
of the house they can't afford.
Exactly.
It's like, oh my God.
It just it's like it snowballs, you know?
Yeah.
The government would swoop in and begin bailing out some of the larger companies and banks from completely going under. Bear Stearns and the American International Group were bailed out, being dubbed too big to fail. Heavy air quotes. That's kind of where that like phrase comes from.
Also note, that's Bear Stearns is where Jeffrey Epstein kind of got started.
Yeah. Oh, interesting, actually. I didn't know that. Yeah, so that's like they were, the government was like, oh, these companies are too big to fail, which I feel like if you're too big to fail, then you are too big to exist.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac went under what was dubbed a government conservatorship. So the government like basically seized the whole company and just started like running it, where they bailed them out and took over control of the private companies to get them out of the hot water that they were currently in. Because again, they owed like a fuck ton of money to investors.
Right.
The home loan securities that they were selling to investors were taken off of the NYSE or the New York Stock Exchange, and the companies are still to this day being ran by the government. A lot of people are like, say that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac should, regain their own like autonomy, I guess. But at this point, it hasn't happened.
Right.
So to circle back, the government did bail out the bail the investors out, which of course caused an even greater amount of government spending to take place for the rich assholes who thought, maybe not knowingly, who though maybe they didn't know they got everybody into this mess.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's kind of where like the big controversy came from, is like these companies, like they fucked up, like whether they like knew they were doing it or whatever, like they fucked up, and like they should be bankrupt.
Yes.
And again, according to like,
because this was their choice and their investments and their bad moves.
And of course, according to their like little free market capitalism, it's like these companies should just be bankrupt. Like they shouldn't exist anymore.
Yes.
But the government was like, well, nah, it's fine. Like,
and because like free market capitalism doesn't work how people say it does.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Now checking back in with the common folk, we have probably hundreds of thousands of people who are now out of work, again, in 2008, now out of work, stuck with these mortgages that are upside down being the term when you owe more on your house than it's even worth.
Yes.
So if you were to sell your house, you wouldn't be able to pay off how much you owe on the loan.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that was all I said there. Yeah, so they've dropped because the prices have dropped so dramatically.
Right.
Under capitalist economic theory, the economy is naturally going to like ebb and flow, and as it does, the Fed again will increase interest rates to cap off inflation, and then as it declines, they lower interest rates to increase spending. This is ideal and the ideal and unrealistic theory of how we monitor the economy when you create a situation like based on greed there. And with the situation that was created in 2008, where you have multi-billion-dollar companies that are too big to fail, even the ideal Adam Smith capitalist can't bounce back from that.
Right.
So even though the Fed and the government tried to like stabilize everything, it didn't work.
Right.
The housing situation was so bad that when the economy began to slow, there was no way to pull it back up without having to crash the way we did. The unemployment rate hit 10%, which was double that of 2007. That equates to about 9 million Americans being out of work during the 2008 recession. Added all together, about $100,000 per household was like lost. And that comes out to be about $648 billion that were lost in the economy as a whole that were like just never recovered. Yeah. Because a lot of the either the government paid people, paid investors, or companies like Lehman Brothers completely went bankrupt and sold all their assets. But even with all of that happening, there was still about $648 billion that were never recovered from people, like for certain investors, and a lot of that was, again, as you were saying, like people's retirement, people's life savings that were all tied up in securities. Yeah. Obama and Congress passed the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in February of 2009. This increased government spending by making more government jobs and infrastructure improvements to employ folks who are out of work. And again, kind of similar to what Biden just passed for the recent COVID recovery. Since the crash, regulations on banks and investment firms have been tightened for lending and somewhat for on investors as well, which again begs the question, why do we have regulations if the free market is so good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever happens in a vacuum, of course. There were multiple foreign nations also affected by the crash through their investments in American securities. And just us generally being a large part of the global economy, if there's less,
right,
if we're buying less things, then it's going to affect everybody that sells things to us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have a feeling we have not seen the last of shady investment practices. And I personally worry about other industries that may have things happen like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that student loans are a big one that are potentially cause an issue in the future. Very similarly, because again, there's a whole everything that we just talked about with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. There's a whole company who does student loan things like that.
Well, and especially now that there's been some promises of payoffs and things like that. I think these companies and stuff will be more motivated to swindle their way around with these student loans. But yeah, all of this is very interesting, and it definitely echoes a bit what was happening with the housing market. Things are better now. Obviously, I mean, I could fucking buy a house, so things are better. But I would say it was around 2019 is when we really first started noticing that this was a real thing. Although I would honestly say it was before then that the housing market started kind of getting out of control.
Skyrocketing.
Probably a few years before then. And then 2019 I think is when people kind of became more aware of these skyrocketing prices. And then interestingly enough, in 2020, despite huge company layoffs and economies tanking and all these things due to COVID, the housing market still was just going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And then by 2021 we were seeing an unreal, just unfathomable market. I was looking on the URE, which is Utah real estate. It's just where all of the listings of real estate in Utah are put on this website. And there was one in West Valley, which it's the west side. So because people are dumb, it's worth usually houses on the west side are worth less.
Yeah.
And it was basically a trailer. It was I think it was a mobile home. It was very small, very outdated, poor. It was not great quality, selling for $400,000.
That's crazy.
There was multiple houses that were in absolute shambles, genuine holes in the wall. Everything's broken. There was places that were gut jobs. There was not even appliances or walls. It was things were, it was gutted down to the framing, selling for over $400,000. And at the time, the interest rate was 2% which is insane. That's insane. Now the interest rate is back to a 6 something, I think. But yeah, and it was literally, there was homes where they would start showings, I don't know, Tuesday morning, let's say, and by Tuesday evening, they wanted final offers in, closed, and then they will make a decision. And they would be getting 30 offers.
That's crazy. For
$100,000 over asking.
Oh my goodness.
And this is despite all of the economy issues that happened due to COVID. But then also, you can look at the economy and look at the companies that did make money during, made massive profits during COVID. And so, people who were involved in those kind of companies had the extra cash to just throw at these new homes. Anyway, so it's very interesting to kind of see the same shit that we were seeing in 2008, like echoed in the housing market today, as well as I think it's just also worth mentioning with these new builds, because you were talking about the cities and everything, like making all of these new homes. One of the companies here is called Ivory Homes. It's like a very popular housing company in Utah who just makes like kind of these cookie cutter style of homes. Sorry if you own an Ivory home, listeners. And there's been a shit ton of new like apartment and townhome builds. And these new builds are so quickly and poorly made because especially like in 2020 and like beginning of 2021, there was this sweet spot of the market being so motherfucking out of control that you could sell like a matchbox for $100 million fucking dollars, right? And so all of these companies were like, let's fucking build as much goddamn housing as we possibly can and sell it for an obscene amount of money. And so they put these houses together as quickly as fucking possible, and they're built like shit. I mean, these things are gonna fall apart in the next 10 years. And like these Ivory homes, I mean, you can walk up to I don't know, the wall and literally rip the baseboard off with like no strength. I mean, they are made like shit. One of my friends moved into a new build. I think it was like kind of a townhome build, and we had a huge rainstorm and their wall literally flooded. Like water came in from one of the walls that faced like the outdoors because it was so poorly made, and there was just like no actual like storm protection or anything. And so water was coming in through the wall. They had to vacate the property and not live there for like a week or something while this wall was being fixed because there was like literally a hole in their wall.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting because again, I know that there are some regulations that they put into place, but obviously, I mean, trying to get like any kind of regulation to pass that's going to like limit profits of huge companies is not ever going to really be a thing, you know?
Right.
So I'm sure that something like this will happen again.
Yeah.
Probably with housing again because it's still fucking crazy.
It is still crazy.
And good, as well as cool.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well,
it's time to plug some things. That's the episode.
That's
everyone.
The episode. So if you want to follow our Instagram, which I will catch up on our posts, it is at Remarks Podcast. I don't even mention the TikTok. It's not worth it. Taylor, take it away.
You can look at some tweets at Remarks Pod. I should probably tweet more as well on there.
Like we said, we're busy.
Yeah, it's just a crazy time of year, y'all.
It really is.
There is always Apple Podcasts. You can leave us a like or leave us a rating and a review. Please make it nice. You can listen to my personal music. It's Taylor Lacey on all the streaming platforms. If you want to hear some communist folk music,
it's very good.
Thank you. And big shout out to our patrons. Patrons. We have Tere Soltera.
We have Andrew Vass.
We have Emily Doran.
And Justin Vass. Thank y'all so much. You're so cute and pretty, and we love you.
And sexy.
Especially sexy.
Especially sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can be a patron too if you'd like.
Yeah.
We put
$5
bonus content on there, and you get first dibs on new merch and stuff.
True.
Which we do have some hopefully coming out pretty soon at the start of the next year.
We've been brainstorming.
Yeah, we got some things in the works, if you will. And huge shout out to Circle Pit Radio, our corporate overlords.
Yes. Be sure to check out some of their other shows, Fear of the Year, That Bites, etc.
Yeah. It's cool stuff. And they have a Patreon as well, and we have some mini episodes that we do that have never been heard by the general public. So
that's true, yeah.
If you ever want to check out their Patreon.
Fresh little mini episodes.
And I know they do a few like Patreon exclusive shows as well.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's cool stuff all around.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. And okay, love you. Bye.